All right, we are live. What's going on? Awesome Wednesday evening here with Deal Maker Nation. We got an awesome guest. I got my co-host here, Robert Wensley of
What's up, guys?
And we got Joe Dillon, our guest speaker for today, a very special guest speaker. One of the best who has some crazy insight on some of the top wholesaling businesses out there. We're actually going to discuss something that's a little bit controversial that maybe not everyone would want to hear. Is that the big question is wholesaling is actually a sustainable business? Is it a sustainable business? And it's interesting because a lot of people see wholesaling as this kind of gray area niche strategy to make a few bucks here and there. But there are companies out there who've made some pretty big bucks. So I think this will be a great topic. You have anything to add to that, Robert?
Well, I just got to say thanks for jumping on, Joe. If you guys don't know Joe and Raphael, you guys started in DC, right? And then you branched out to Tampa. You guys just crushed it. You guys were just destroying everyone. You came down to that market. You just owned it. It's been such a pleasure watching you guys grow and just absolutely crushing it down there. And to have you on the show is just great. To learn from one of the best in the country. God, thank you for joining us. So if you guys are watching this live, pause everything else and just stay tuned for the next hour here, because this is going to be absolute gold. There's not very many opportunities to learn from someone like Joe ever. So thanks for jumping on, Joe. And if you're watching this, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Turn off your email and watch this for the next hour.
I love it.
Got some serious nuggets coming.
Love it.
Joe, let's jump right into the meat and potatoes. There's so many different opinions on whether or not wholesaling, you can actually have a profitable wholesaling business. A lot of people think it's just an easy way to get a quick buck, but it's impossible to scale. As you start scaling, you start getting more overhead, costs start piling up, marketing costs increase, and eventually you're at break even, or maybe you're losing money. We've seen that happen with so many businesses. So what's your take?
All right. So let me give you some context. Okay. So in the past 2 years, I've coached intimately several hundred wholesalers. And the reason that I can attest to this is because I probably have more intimate knowledge on specific wholesale businesses than probably anybody in the country, because I work closely with people that are actually doing deals. My specific niche is helping people that are at 1 to 2 deals a month and helping them scale and build a business to where they're, now doing consistent, anywhere from 5 to 10 months to 10 deals a month, depending on, what market they're in. In some cases, some of my clients are doing even 20 right now. Wow. But, and so the cool part about this is, one of my favorite things to do is I'm able to have insight into businesses, and, I'm huge on numbers and KPIs. And so I can have intimate access to what is working. Is this, how profitable is this business? How profitable is that business model? And so, I think that's something that people would want to hear.
Yeah.
And
you see their numbers instead of just being a business owner that just has one set of books. Maybe I'm doing it right. Maybe I'm not doing it right. You work with all these wholesalers across the country. You see all their KPIs, all their numbers. And instead of just looking just at this one microcosm of the industry, you have a much broader view.
Right. And so, one of the things that I want to definitely dive into is, we had a huge office with a lot of employees, and a lot of people see that, and a lot of people want that, and whether or not that's your ego driving that, or whether or not you actually want to do it as part of your mission or your purpose. I'll tell you that can come with a lot of low profit months, negative profit months even. And a lot of times I constantly have this conversation with high level people in the industry, in our industry, high level wholesalers, and just investors in general. They're like, is it worth it? We're making 2 million, but we're making to the bottom line just as much as we were when it was just us, when we just had a small team, right? And so the answer is, Okay, it can be profitable. There is there are specific ways to, create your business. One thing I want to kind of pivot this into a more personal direction, and then we can come back to more technicality, more technical things. But what is your actual personal vision? Okay. And we all have all these freaking dreams. We have all this social. We're living in the social media generation, right? And where we're seeing everything, it's so glamorous, and it looks greener on the other side. My only recommendation is to be aware of the societal conditioning that is being placed on you consciously or subconsciously that is influencing your decision to go in a certain direction or to create a vision for yourself. My strong recommendation is to have some silent time with yourself, right? It really should be a spiritual time where you can, access higher states of consciousness to guide you in the right direction to what is actually your vision and what is your purpose. So the reality is, okay, I have clients and people in this, I just created this 7-figure mastermind, and it's amazing. We have people that are crushing it from all over the country. We all get together in a mansion. I just came back from that last week.
Yeah, I saw on Facebook. Looks cool.
Yeah, man. So it was awesome. A ton of insight that was shared and a ton of value that was shared, from me, from everyone in the group. And it was just an amazing collision of just a high level conversation and value. But, one of the things that one of the topics there was just profitability, right? Like how profitable is your business? And so we actually got, like, the cool thing about this mastermind is there's no hiding, right? You're coming with your numbers and you're going to show us whether you made, 300,000 to the bottom line or whether you lost $100,000 to the bottom line overall.
Yeah, because on Facebook, you see people posting photos of the checks all day long, right? But what they're not showing you is their credit card statements of how much they're spending on Google pay-per-click, how much they're spending on direct mail, on PAs, on buying data, on everything, right? We just see. And when you put that all together, it can tell a completely different story. So was there any insights? Like, is there any trends that you see across wholesale business? Like, in general, are they profitable? In general, does it make sense to go big, or should you say small? What are your thoughts? What have you seen?
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll dive right into that. The only thing that I want to talk about before we leave that subject is, like, please don't freaking buy into what's on social media, guys. No one will tell. Well, let me take that back. Most people will not be completely open and transparent and vulnerable. They'll just, most people are significance driven, unfortunately, in this society, in this day and age. And so, yes, they are going to post things that make them feel good, right? Look at me, right? So do not get caught up in the comparison trap. It's going to rob your joy. Like, really stay honed into the presence of where you are. Appreciate where you are in your journey. There's no fucking destination. I'm sorry about cussing. Are we not supposed to cuss here? Okay, all
right. We keep it raw, rugged, and real here.
All right, good. That's what I'm talking about.
100 times more.
All right, look. All right, so
YouTube.
Don't buy into that, guys. Like, your journey is your journey. Nobody else's. It's a personal freaking journey. Entrepreneurship is already as hard as it is. Don't make it miserable by comparing yourself to people who you have no idea how their life actually is. You have no idea if they're angry, if they're sad, if they're depressed deep down inside, and that's what's driving them to create such a big business, right? I have worked with people like this very closely before. And so, guys, your journey is your journey. Okay. So before we get into all the technical stuff, just realize that, appreciate it, appreciate where you are. And I'm saying this because, again, I have worked intimately with many, many wholesalers, and almost every single one of them have big dreams and they're impatient to get there. Okay. That impatience does not go away once you get there. you're going to drive yourself into a life of madness and when are we, and always like leaving your happiness in the future. It's never going to get there. Like you're never going to get there. You're never going to have enough or be enough. And so just relax, be present, understand you are where you are, and enjoy the freaking journey. Please
100%.
enjoy the journey. Okay. Because there is no destination. All right.
I'm really glad you bring that up, Joe. And it sounds like you really like to harp on the self-development part of it, the inner game, because I think, well, first of all, I think this is great that there's a huge movement of business coaches out there that are focusing on the inner work before going to the outer work, because, you go to, say, a business school or something like that. And yeah, I don't have an MBA. I don't know exactly what they teach, but, chances are they're probably not teaching this stuff that's going to, teach you to be happy. And, we're just kind of going to an age now where, this is even more important than ever because, you're seeing all the stuff that's happening out in the world. And this is the reason why, like, they're not doing this inner work, right? So hats off to you for taking this inner work stuff priority number one.
Guys, honestly, though, it's all that matters. It's really all that matters. If you're a billionaire, but you're miserable, I don't want your life.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And you have someone that, anybody that really like frequents third world countries will see this. You will see this like in countries in South America, like people, or Central America, or maybe Asia. People are freaking happy. They're genuinely happy, right? And they have like nothing. And I'm like, wow, that is so lost within our society. It's honestly everything that matters. Like, life is an inner game. There is nothing that you've experienced outside of yourself. Let that sink in. Nothing in your entire life has ever happened outside of you. It's happened inside of you.
Yeah.
Right? So one person can have a totally different response to the same thing than somebody else. And let's say okay, so Gabe Garcia, he's down in Florida, and he talked about this metaphor at the mastermind. And he was like, look, there's two people and they're both climbing a mountain, right? The theoretical mountain is like chasing success in entrepreneurship, let's say. And the first guy, let's say, for example, he was never, he never felt like he was enough, or maybe he was bullied, or maybe his parents didn't show him love when he was young. And so he's out to prove the world how good he is and how capable he is, because he doesn't feel like he's enough. And so he builds this amazing company, and he's climbing to this mountain, and he's like, but throughout the whole journey, while he's climbing this mountain, he is, he's gritting his teeth. He's like white knuckling, and he's like, I gotta do this. And it's not really that enjoyable of a process. Although he builds a very high mountain, but through the whole time he was hating it, right? Yeah. Whereas you have this other person that was maybe taking things a little bit slower, and maybe stopped to smell the flowers on the way up the mountain, and had a smile on his face the entire time. And maybe he didn't really get up didn't build a mountain as high as the other person, but he was happy, joyful, at peace, fulfilled the entire time. Which one of those people do you want to be? Which one of those people do you want to be?
There's no top on the mountain, right? Like I find myself doing this, and I so many entrepreneurs I know, we always think like, oh, like I'm just gonna grind, right? I'm just gonna grind. Once I get to X, that's when I'll like relax a little bit and enjoy my life. That's when I'll like stop working till 9 p.m. every night.
That's biggest lie that we've ever had.
And then there's so many, more money, more problems, bigger business, more problems, right? You get there, it's just the next peak. And I did this for like 3 or 4 years. I still do it actually quite often. I think it's good hearing this again. Like it in your head, but you got to hear it again. It's like you got to enjoy the process. You got to just have fun. Have fun building and grinding.
And that's why, like, the most important part, guys, is like clarifying your purpose and your vision.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you're doing something for a good purpose, then you are going to enjoy the journey. Like if you're doing something, if you're creating the vision that you actually want, and you have a good purpose that is attached to that and driving that, and each one of us has a unique purpose and a unique mission and a unique vision, then that's all that matters. Like you don't have to fall into the comparison trap of like saying, okay, well, this guy built a $4 million business, so I want to build a $5 million business. Or the more common thing is like, I only got 600,000 this year. I feel like I feel like a failure, right?
Yeah.
So, guys, for real though, this is so common, so frighteningly common, because I'm working with these guys on a very personal, intimate level. I get to see this, and so I get to, thankfully, which is awesome. I kind of get to redirect them into creating a life and a vision that actually means something to them, so that they can step into it every day, calm, collected, joyful, right, and enjoying the journey, right? Because if I were to actually bet, right, I would be willing to bet like probably 10% or less of entrepreneurs, maybe even 5%, are genuinely enjoying the journey. I would honestly say probably 5%, which means 95% of entrepreneurs are not doing it right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then they get into it for the freedom, and then and the opportunities and the money, but then now they're more of a slave to their business than they were when they were in a 9 to 5. That's why like it's the most important thing. Anybody that's listening to this right now, the most important thing that you have to do is create the life every day that you want and live in that life. So that comes from understanding your purpose, creating a vision that makes sense for you, and then operating and executing from there.
And I feel like when you do that, like when you take those, like that, it sounds like that's the foundation. So that's like step one. Like before you even start thinking about my marketing, my strategy, like how do I want to live? What is my lifestyle? And I think how that could even help you get to your goals faster is like, I know in my life when I'm doing sales, for example, if I go grind and grind and grind and grind, and I'm just like pounding the phone trying to like sell as many software licenses as I can or whatever, I don't perform very well. It's interesting. I remember last year I took a vacation. I went down to Tulum, Mexico for a couple of weeks, spent another couple of weeks in California. And the final week I was in California this way, rented this nice, beautiful house overlooking the California mountains, pool, hot tub, just beautiful, beautiful scenario. I sold more that week just working in the morning, like an hour per day, than I did in the previous 6 months. Sometimes just having that right mindset, like that, sometimes just spending time enjoying yourself helps you be a lot more productive when you're actually working. I think people can like hear it in your voice, like if you love what you're doing, you're going to be more persuasive, right? Especially in this business, wholesale business, you're persuading people to sell their home to you. If you sound like not a happy person on the other side of the phone, you're not going to do as well, right? Do you think there's any validity in that, Joe? Have you found that in your own
100%? Like, so what you're referring to is like, it's an energetic attraction.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm huge on so for example, Dr. Joe Dispenza is like one of my favorite guys out right now. And he's really bridging the gap between consciousness and science, and how it all relates on a quantum physics level. And so not to get too scientific, but yeah, essentially what you're doing is now you're an energetic match to a potential future, right? So whatever there's unlimited potentials in your future, there's unlimited potentials in general for anything and everything, right? And like when you can match it vibrationally with a certain energy or frequency, you can vibrationally match to a potential in the future, right? And this is really getting into the mechanics of the law of attraction, which most people don't really understand on a mechanical level, right? On a scientific level, like what they're actually doing. And so, like not only does it help you get the external thing, but it helps you get what you're really after, which is the internal state of being. Like, to be honest, you're not after $1 million, right? If you have a goal of $1 million, you're after how it's going to make you feel to make $1 million, right? And what most people don't realize is they can cultivate those states of being now without having the $1 million. Hence the reason why all these people in Costa Rica or, Guatemala, they're like super genuinely happy people, and they have nothing, right? But like, but at the same time, like they're making life what it is. Like they're making their life happy simply because, and that's what we are being trained not to do almost with our society and the way that it's constructed nowadays. And that's why I'm huge on this inner game. Back to your point, John. What you were saying. That's the biggest thing that I want to give to the world, because I can teach you how to make $1 million. But if you're still unhappy, if you're still that that angry boy that is looking for approval, then it doesn't change it really doesn't change your like deep essence of the quality of your life. It might change a little bit, right? Maybe now you're able to go out and do nice, and buy nice things and go to dinner whenever you want and go on vacations. But really it's that internal state of being, it's still going to be the same. And so you might have little spikes, but what you're not looking for the spike, you're looking for like a massive like change in your constant state of being. And so I know we want to get into the mechanics and the stuff and the actual technical business things. Yeah. So we can get to this after, but I'll just I'll kind of conclude with just saying, if you're interested in this stuff, read Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
We'll post that.
Phenomenal book. If you get nothing out of this, then if you get nothing else out of this interview, just read that book and then start following his stuff.
I hear more and more about this. It's interesting. I'm going to check this out for sure.
It's kind of a side note. Have you looked into joining one of Joe Dispenza's workshops, Joe?
Yeah. I actually pre-registered for one in Maui, and
you got in. From what I understand, like once the registration opens, you have to do it like right there. Otherwise, it sells out that day, right?
Dude, he's in such demand. It's ridiculous. But it's amazing because I love that, this work is being done. You know what I mean? Like he is one of the leaders of raising the consciousness of the world, because we freaking drastically need it right now, especially with everything that's going on. So, and that's one of my main missions too, right? And so, that's why I've always been, anybody that you talk to that's gone through any of my programs, maybe that's their client in my mastermind, that's honestly the first thing that we always go through is like your personal inner life. You know what I mean? So
really your service is improving people's lives. The vehicle is, wholesaling and making some money along the way.
Sure, yeah. And like I've even had some clients where they're like, you know what? After I really did this vision exercise, I actually don't even want to do wholesaling. And I said, awesome, great. I couldn't be happier that you are clear on your vision, right? Yeah. Like for real. And so, and that's, consistently, it's a consistent thing. Like you never stop working on your vision, guys. In fact, the more often you do it, the better, so that you are literally calling yourself into a new reality day by day by day. And so otherwise you'll get stuck in old thought patterns and habits. And, I forget what the statistic is. Some of you may have heard it, but we do 99.9% of the same things as yesterday, or have the same thoughts.
Same habits. Yeah,
exactly. So
we're just running these same programs, just on a different,
exactly,
at a different activity. Yeah,
literally, programs is a great choice of word, because it's literally stored into your subconscious as a program, and it's just running. Right? Oh, I've seen this before. Okay. Oh, I have to get up. I have to go to work, and I have to grind out from this time to this time just because. Right? I actually had to do a lot of inner work to get myself out of that monotonous, 8 to 6 office. Right? I had to do a lot of inner work in order to actually unravel that and set myself free from that. Right? That's just an example. And I also had to do a lot of inner work to really free myself from the mentality of being busy. Like when I started to free up my time, which was what every entrepreneur wants, right? Like my business was successful, running in the background, and I was freeing up a lot of my time. I still felt busy, even though I wasn't busy.
Yeah,
it was insane. And I had to do a lot of inner work to release that. And so, yes, the subconscious programming is absolutely true. That happens. And we have to consciously, renew our mind, renew our thoughts in order to become new people. All of this, by the way, because I know we want to get into the mechanics and stuff. All of this, by the way, is explained in that book. So highly, highly, highly recommend that book.
Nice.
Quick question was, sorry, I was just going to ask real quick.
Go ahead.
Was that part of the reason why you left, that company you helped build a couple years ago, decided to do coaching?
Absolutely. And I, one, it was just it was not an energetic match with me and my partner. And I realized also that that wasn't my path. And so my path was in helping other people build this business and helping other people, not only on a business level, but also on the personal level. And that's what I loved to do. And I still love to do. And so, so that's definitely a big reason, man. Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, Robert, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier.
This is great. This is, because I love when you just step back and say, so often we focus on the minute details, what's the best color of font? Put on my postcard, and none of that really matters at the end of the day if you're not happy in your business, So great way to kick this off and get us started by talking about the foundation and really finding a way to do what you love with your life. And maybe wholesaling is a way to get you there. Maybe it's not, but that's something you got to figure out first before you ever start dialing the phone or sending a postcard or doing anything.
Yeah. And real quick, lastly, because I know everybody here is probably building a wholesaling business that's listening.
Yeah.
It's it can be a stepping stone. And sometimes you might not per se, the actual act of what you're doing, but you can still enjoy the process because you know that it's going to lead you to where you need to be. Right. And so, it can still be a stepping stone. So that's the last thing I'll say.
Yeah. Raphael mentioned that when he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He was mentioning how, wholesaling is the best way to go earn your first million, basically. If you have some greater thing you want to do, but you need to come up with capital, there's very few other businesses that you can walk into and come and earn $1 million at, 25 years old or whatever. So great insights. Now, once you have that foundation down and let's say you've gone through this whole process, you've read that book that you recommended, we'll post the link below. You've gone through all of that. You figured it out. You think that wholesaling aligns with your vision or is a stepping stone towards your final vision. What is the next step that we should be thinking about?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll just share a lot of the insights that I have had, working with all these clients, right? And most of these clients are trying to scale their business, right? Most of them now have teams or, employees. They may have an acquisitions person, maybe two, maybe a dispo person, maybe a transaction coordinator, but depending on whatever stage of the journey you're in, one of the things that I've seen is people try to scale too fast. Okay. And that can lead to losses. That can lead to like financial losses, like negative profitability. And I've seen this time and time and time again. So one of the ways to retain a lot of that profit, okay, and people might argue with me because very rarely people show their actual numbers. But again, I'm telling you guys this from a bottom line perspective, not from a top line perspective. Okay. So from a bottom line perspective, you don't want to scale. Like if you scale fast, you will have lack of standardization. You will have people that don't understand that haven't been honed in on your processes. You might, like I've seen people try to hire 2 people at once, 3 people at once. Even 2 people is a lot to hire at once. If it's the same exact position and maybe they're competing for a more permanent position, that can work. But in the general sense, you don't really want to hire if you have less than 2 people on your team. You don't really want to hire 2 people at once. So don't worry about scaling too fast. Let's scale right and let's scale profitably. And so I can take you through like a couple steps, right? And so, the majority of the people that I work with, they want to scale. They don't really have their business structured. They don't know where to start. And so, first and foremost, you want to see where you are. Like there's 3 steps that I teach my clients. And the first one is, okay, you want to see if you have the correct cash. It's what I call cash space. So, you need to create a certain amount of cash space because you need cash to invest into your business so that you can grow and scale it, right?
Yeah.
Also need reserves. Okay. I mean, same thing, same as cash. You need reserves so that you can weather the storm when you bring people in because they won't perform to the level you perform. So stop having unrealistic expectations. They're not going to perform to that level as soon as you hire them. Okay. So you need to be able to weather maybe 2 months, all right, before they really start to generate any money. So, the first person that you're going to hire, okay, well, let me back up. So that's the first step is that create cash base, right? Now, I typically say anywhere from 4 to 6 months is healthy, right? So if you have, let's say your monthly expenses are 10,000, 40 to 60,000 is a good range. It could even be a little bit lower if you're more risk averse, and a little bit higher if you're more conservative. So, because the last thing that you want to do, guys, is the reason I say a range is because you want to play to who you are too, because if you're more conservative and things start getting really slim, like people make terrible decisions when they're fearful, right? So you don't want to be fearful. You want to be in a good spot. So, you want to create that cash base. Then when you're done with that, so like basically when you're creating cash base, you want to just close as many deals as possible, as fast as possible, so that you can get to that amount, right? Then you can start to invest that properly. And you can go into the next phase, which I call the optimize operations phase, right? So now you can use that money and you can start to invest in like people, right? You can start to hire your people. You can start to optimize your, what optimize operations really means is like really drilling down further and really creating a machine. Okay, creating processes, creating systems, that can create the standardization. At this stage, you might have a VA. You may have some cold callers and things of that nature, and then you might have an acquisitions person. Okay, and then you really want to start. I mean, really, the step 3 is building your team. Okay, so after you optimize your operations, you want to really start to build your rockstar team. And we go into all this stuff. By the way, I teach my clients. You go into like how to acquire your rock stars, right? Your acquisitions people, like once you start to, like, that's step 1 of building your team. You hire a good acquisitions person. And most people, I would say 90%, 95% of wholesalers are like at that level or lower.
Right.
There's really only a select handful that have like a full team, transaction coordinator and dispo rep. So for the majority of you guys that are there, please understand that, like, you need to train your acquisitions person consistently. People okay, I was just on the phone with my buddy Gabe today, and I was like, look, that's the thing that people suck at, right? And like, it's not even necessarily your fault because you just have so much going on, but like, people suck at onboarding and training, right? So the ramp up period that it takes for them to actually really start to close some deals and make some money for your business is high, and a lot of times you might even have the wrong person. And so you invest a lot of time and energy, and there's they don't pan out, or they're not performing well, and almost always it's the same thing, that they just haven't trained their people well. So a couple of things that I'll mention. One, to get great people onto your team, use the OMG assessment that
OMG assessment, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yep.
OMG, I haven't heard of this. I gotta check this out.
So it's an assessment that is particularly targeted to salespeople.
Is that from certain frameworks, say Traction or something that we can read about?
I'm sorry?
Is that from some sort of framework, like from Traction or from some book that we can reference?
No, they don't reference it in Traction. I'm not sure where it's referenced from.
Okay.
I got it from John Martinez. So yeah, he's a good buddy of mine, and he sent me that connect. But basically, it's totally.
Sorry, real quick. Is it OMG? Is it Objective Management Group? Is that what OMG is?
You know what? To be honest,
find it right now.
Well, I honestly forgot.
We'll find it. We'll post a link below. But okay, great tip. And that's basically an assessment to figure out if they're a good candidate for a sales position.
I will warn you, it is costly, but it is totally freaking worth it.
What does it cost?
I mean, don't quote me on this, but I believe now it may be $2,000.
Okay.
But there are different packages. I think there's like a package that gives you 6 assessments. There's a package that gives you unlimited assessments. So
it's kind of like a personality assessment type deal.
No. I mean, no. Yes, it is, but like specifically geared towards sales, right? So you will know, what kind of salesperson they are. You will know if they're going to be trigger shy, right? If you have a good one on the hook, right? Yeah. You will know if this person is going to be great at building rapport, but they're not going to be good at negotiations. It will tell you all these things.
So it goes deeper than the typical, I guess, Tony Robbins DISC assessment that everyone takes, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the DISC is. I think there's better tools out there. I mean, the DISC can be good for like a TC, a VA. It could be. Yeah, it tells you, more of a broader approach, I would say. But the OMG assessment is great. So essentially, like, you want to get your acquisitions person, once they're onboarded, like, you want to give them good training. That I have, like, if you guys want, whoever's listening to this, if you want to hit me up, I have Steven Morales' training actually, and I have a discount for that if you guys want to. And that goes through, it's kind of a little bit different than John Martinez. John Martinez is more of a softer approach that really listens to the person's needs, and also very polite. It's very polite as well. On the other side of it, Stephen Morales, his course is more assertive, a lot more assertive.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just found that it works. It works. Both can work well.
Yeah.
And actually, the king closer, right, or queen, depending on who you have, will know how to switch between the two and when to switch between the two. So most of my clients actually got both courses. So
yeah, great tip.
Yeah, but
I was asking what the assessment's name was again. Is the OMG assessment for salespeople?
Yeah, OMG sales assessment. You can just, if you just Google that, you will.
Yeah, John, I'm not able to do a live comment. I don't know if you can Google it and post it on the live comment.
Yep, I just made a comment. Yep, so did
I just saw it. It is Objective Management Group, and actually, I actually, man, there's so many things that we work with nowadays, but I believe I have a discount on that too. So if anybody's thinking about that, just reach out to me. I'm pretty sure I can get you a discount on that.
Nice. Joe's gonna hook it up.
Yeah. So
now, Joe, I had a conversation with a friend who she runs like multiple huge, massive sales teams. It's all direct phone sales. For her, it doesn't matter what the product is. She's just like, it's all the same thing. It's all the same process. You follow that process. I can sell anything through my sales teams. She was telling me is to find one killer salesperson, it typically takes her 6 hires, right? And I've heard similar things with VAs too. And that's like at the pro level, right? But then I've also heard this similar things from all my friends who are wholesale, and they'll say, to find a really good VA that can actually close on the phone or find me deals, it'll take me sometimes 6, sometimes up to 20 different VAs I'll go through to find the right person, the perfect person that I'm going to work with for years. Have you found that in your business? What are your numbers like? What do you think people should expect?
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. Like like most entrepreneurs, they don't want to do the work to actually find a good person. They just want to find someone that's like good enough and like, all right, get this off my plate. Right? The more work you do on the front end, trust me, it is going to pay off. Yeah. It is going to pay off, right? The cost of a wrong hire is massive, especially your acquisitions person, okay? A wrong hire on the acquisition side can cost you hundreds of thousands. Oh, yeah. Because the biggest cost is the deals that they didn't get.
Exactly. Opportunity cost. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, it's not like when I first started out, I was working on a team and they had really low paid, really poor salespeople. They just hired realtors and they're paying them like $40K a year plus like a little bit of commission. And these guys, and meanwhile, they're spending millions of dollars on marketing, right? Every year, they're spending millions of dollars on marketing and hardly anything on their sales team. And I met with the CEO. I told him, I'm like, this is ridiculous. These guys, they're not closing any of these leads. They're just leaving all these hot leads out there, aren't closing any of them. We should bring in proper salespeople. And that just completely changed the business by actually paying people more money, but going and getting the better salespeople, give them juicy commissions. There was a way higher return on that ad spend, right? Because the cheap guys are going to miss so many deals.
Absolutely. So please make sure to invest the time and resources to get somebody good on your team. And so, yes, invest in the assessment. Yes, go through a rigid interview process, which they can teach you at OMG, and hire right, and then so I'm telling you all the steps that most people get wrong when they're scaling. And then when you finally hire them, please don't like hire them and then like assume everything is all good, right? That's why the next piece is training. Biggest, like huge. That piece is huge. Never stop training with your people. Okay, so you might have 4 weeks of more close intensive training, and then you can kind of let the gas off let your pedal off the gas a little bit. Maybe just touch base with them twice a week for an hour each, and then a daily huddle. Right, I always say that with all my people. Hold them to standards, to KPIs, right? Have them be making 50 to 60 outbound calls every day, in addition to what they're what they're talking to. Record their talk time. Have their talk time be at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. I would say just really aim for 2 hours, and every day, and then hold them accountable, and then also keep on training them, keep on role playing. Have them bring call recordings, or you listen to call recordings as well. And then if they need spot check training, like let's say they're amazing at building rapport, they're amazing at opening people, right? People love them, people trust them, but he's not negotiating at all. Then and they're just getting the low hanging fruit. This happens all the time. And again, your sales assessment will tell you this, so you'll know what you need to work on. But if that is the case, then you don't even need to role play rapport building. Just role play negotiation. Just role play closing, right? And
sticking point. Yeah.
Right, exactly. There is a turning point once you start to do a certain amount of deal flow, to where like after you hit a certain amount, everything on top of that will massively impact your bottom line, right? Mm-hmm. So like there was a point in time where that point for us was like 120,000 a month, and once we got past that number, our profit percentage went up drastically, right? And so what's going to do that is, yes, staying efficient with your marketing, but like really hone in on your acquisitions process. Okay, and your acquisitions training, your onboarding, and monitor them closely. Okay, it's the stuff that people hate to do, and that's really going to dial that in. That's how we Stephen Morales was actually one of our guys. He was our acquisition guy, and so that's how he we were able to really help him. He was already a killer, but we were able to really help him like crush it. It's just constant molding and training, and and talking about all these techniques and negotiations and closing, and listening to the call recordings, and then starting to actually nitpick them, and it's like, it sounds obvious, but literally nobody does it. Even my own damn clients don't freaking do it, and I tell them to do it all the time. And it's funny because once they start doing it, they're like, "Oh my God, our deal flow went up," and I'm like,
"Deals."
Exactly. This is what happens, like literally every single time without fail. And so so there's the training piece, okay, and that's super important. All right. And then
so before we get too deep into the training part of it, I'm kind of wondering if you have a preference for this. I know a lot of people kind of have this idea that you should be hiring an acquisitions person that is currently not in real estate, someone from an outside industry, for instance, someone who's been in car sales or something like that, rather than someone who's familiar with real estate. Do you have an opinion on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I like people that are outside of real estate, because typically if they know, especially if they know a decent amount, maybe they used to be a wholesaler, maybe they used to be an agent. If they know a decent amount of about real estate, they may want to learn as much as possible and then go try to do it on their own.
Right.
And that's another thing. When you bring in your acquisitions person, keep them in acquisitions. Do not teach them how to also sell deals and do the marketing, because then you're teaching them the whole business, and before you know it, you just created a competitor, right? And then,
or these steal deals. I had this happen with one of my biggest clients. He'd been working with a guy for years, like I think more than a decade, and all of a sudden deals started disappearing. And actually found out about it during an interview for another candidate. They're interviewing another candidate. They said, "Oh yeah, I love buying deals from you guys." They're like, "What are you talking about? We've never sold you any deals." You know, like I think almost every single business I've worked with, this has happened. So the guys either steal deals, or they take all the good leads right before they plan on exiting. Because the name of the game is like come in, learn the business, and then exit and do it on your own, right? Instead of paying for coaching and training, you just go get a job, right? Working for another big shop, learn the business, and then
at the same time.
Yeah, guys will they'll hoard put all the good sellers in their phone, put all the good buyers in their phone, leave, they walk away with the business in their pocket, ready to go. So you think just division of roles, that's the way to prevent
division of departments? Yeah, like you want it's isolation, right? Well, I don't know if that's the best word, but really it's compartmentalization of like what they're focused on, right? So they shouldn't even know how to sell the deals. They shouldn't know any of the process behind that. They shouldn't know the process for marketing. And they shouldn't know they shouldn't know the process for it. They will know what we do, whether it's text messaging or whether it's cold calling. But they shouldn't really know too much about the ins and outs of it, right? Because that's going to it could potentially create someone that can leave, right? And
too. That's usually
exactly. Yeah. And so so I would just say keep people in their what you hired them for, and keep people in their lane. Now if you want someone to potentially become as the COO maybe, then that's a different story. Then you might want to cross train them in all departments. So that's definitely my 2 cents on that. Shoot, John, what were you saying? What was the thing that you stopped me for? You had just said something.
Crap.
I want to make sure that I.
You were talking about acquisitions guy.
That's okay. Well, look, it wasn't meant for us to harp on that subject, so it's all good.
I've got another question relating to this, and I think this is very practical that I think a lot of people might have the same question on. When it comes to hiring, I guess let's just use the acquisitions guy as an example. Other than the OMG process, how do you pick someone that you think can kind of be that that replication of you? Because the idea is to find someone that can replicate your skill set, but oftentimes you're going to have to, in terms of scaling, you're going to have to settle with the fact that they may not be 100% of you. They may just be 70, and you're just kind of be okay with it. What are your thoughts on that in terms of, I guess, bringing people into the role and just kind of replicating yourself, and how good you think they could potentially be?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion on this topic, but one thing, whether they're 70, whether they're 80, like, again, if your vision is to create whatever it is that you want, freedom, a legacy, or if you want to make a certain amount of money to do X, Y, Z, you're going to have to let it go. Let it go, bro. You're going to have to let it go. Okay. So, most people fall into the no one's going to do it better than me trap. And the reality is, most of the time that's BS. You can find somebody that will do it better than you. Maybe you might be the most passionate because it's your baby, but and you're the business owner, but you can probably still find people that will do it better than you, right? And so I would say, but even if they're 70, 80%, I mean, look, if it aligns with your vision, and if having a team aligns with your vision, if delegating yourself out of this, out of this role aligns with your vision, then do it, right? You have to do it, right? And so obviously you want to do it correctly, right? But in addition to the I think this was your question. In addition to the OMG assessment, how do you know, or like, how do you ensure you pick the right person? And so, just coming up with a good process. There's a great book called Who. I follow their interview questions and things of that nature as well, to make sure that they not only match on a performance level, like on a skill level, but they match, culturally. And so, that's obvious. That's just as important, to be honest. That's just as important. And so, yeah, you will, you may encounter, let me put it that way, people that are operating at 70% of where you are, 80% of where you are, and don't have unrealistic expectations, but there are rock stars who have incredible drive out there, who love working on themselves, who love self-development, and you can find those people, and they will be a quicker ramp-up period than they will operate at 90 or even 100%. And in some cases, they might even operate better than you, right? And so, yeah, I mean, 100%. Oh, I remember what you were talking about, John. You talked about hiring people outside of real estate, right? Is that what you had?
Yeah. So the first question, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I think I answered that. However, that is so. What I said to that question was, I typically like to hire people outside of real estate, but it's a rule that can be bent because Stephen, for example, he was in real estate before. Like he was trying to to wholesale before, and he just found a great opportunity with us, and obviously we were able to flood him with leads and things like that, and things like that. So he was happy and he stayed, and he was with us for 3 years or so, and closed many deals with us. So kind of getting back to it, as far as when you do hire that person, again, I was kind of talking about standards. So I would say out of everyone that I've talked to, you really want to cap them out, feed them and provide them with like enough leads so that they can have 8 to 10 meaningful conversations a day, right? 10 is actually, even on the high end. But if they're getting, let's say 40 to 50 actually interested leads to where they're going through the script and they're running numbers, that's kind of in addition to their follow-up. If they have a big pipeline of follow-up, that's kind of where you want to be. If they don't have a pipeline of follow-up, you can push that to maybe 10 leads a day. And I think I mentioned earlier too, 50 to 60, potentially even 70, outbound calls on a daily basis, 2 hours of talk time is kind of what you're really looking to get out of them.
That's super
And
useful.
what's that?
Super useful, like just having some concrete metrics. People always wonder that. They're like, how many calls should my guys be making? Are they slacking? Are they doing well?
Yeah.
Do you have any stats on texting yet? We have a lot of clients that will do like lead Sherpa texting. Do you have a sense of like how many texts someone should be sending in a day, what their text to lead or text to deal ratios should be?
Sure. Yeah. So so for texting, if you have one acquisitions person, they should be able to handle 1,500, right around 1,500 texts a day.
Yeah.
You really want to start capping them out at 2,000. And then I will have to. I don't have those in front of me, but I have like lead metrics and stuff like that. So I would have to get back with you on that one.
Right.
But yeah, one person should definitely be able to handle that. And so the cool part too, if anybody's listening and anybody is interested, as I have seen all these different holes in the business, I have created services to serve all these wholesalers and investors in all of these potential holes that stop so many people from being successful. Okay, so for example, acquisitions training. Now that's our newest thing that we just came out with. We're going to have live calls, like bi-weekly calls. So people who hire an acquisitions person can send them to us, and then we will do ongoing training with them to make sure they're on their toes, go over call recordings, do role playing and stuff like that, so that that we make sure that they're performing right.
This is a service you're providing, is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. That's our newest one.
That's awesome.
We also have marketing. We also have virtual assistants. I have a virtual assistant business to where I've trained them on my entire marketing process, so they know my Podio. They know they know my scorecards. If you guys have any of those things, they know Podio. They know in general how to manage the business and how to track the KPIs and display the KPIs, right? And so we have that. I have more so to what you were talking about with the texting. This is one of the biggest things is we have SMS VAs that can manage, that are trained where we specifically train them and to have these conversations for you, so that instead of you or your acquisitions person being on the being on the texting, you can just have that VA do it, and then they'll just send you leads, right? Okay,
Nice.
hop on the phone with this one.
I need some of these.
Yeah.
What does that cost? Like, do you bill per day, per text message?
Yeah, so I think it comes out to, it's either full time or part time, but I think it comes out to like $7 an hour or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's it's ridiculous for the actual value, and so yeah, man. Like honestly, anything that I have done out of this, like the cool part about me doing coaching and me doing a mastermind and really working closely with all these real estate wholesalers and investors is I'm able to really serve them as much as possible and create services that fill the holes, because undoubtedly, whoever you are, you have holes in your business, 100%. And so I'm my goal was to try to fill as many of those holes as possible to keep them to keep them as effective as possible, and to keep them doing the things that they actually like to do. Yeah. So
makes sense.
Yeah. So I believe for full time, let me put it here. It's $1,200 a month, and I think that comes out. I don't know what that comes out to, and then for part time, it's $700.
Sweet.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Sounds fair.
I'm gonna have to sign up with you pretty soon. I'm doing a lot of texting now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so we have that. We also have cold calling VAs, so we do all those things. So anyhow, kind of getting back right to the structure, right? So when you hire that person, like again, this is what's going to make you profitable is you pouring into that one, selecting the right person, and the second thing is just making sure you pour into that person with the correct training. And so I give all my clients like a training regimen to where they follow, and so that they can follow this specific training regimen, and by the end of 4 weeks they got a killer, right? Obviously, if they hire the right person. Now, really. So like the next step of that is like after you get an acquisitions person, and you just want to hone in on your marketing. Obviously, you want to create processes for your marketing. You want to make your marketing machine consistent, and you want to maximize your marketing dollars, right? And so, I have an entire system to make sure that we're keeping an eye on like the cost per lead, the cost per our deal, our ROI in general, and just staying on top of marketing. And so, if you get this, right, you have like a small team, maybe you have an acquisitions person, and maybe even an admin / TC / someone that can help you with marketing. So that's like a 3-person team that can do a lot of damage, right? Like you can depending on what market you're in, but in DC, for example, it's easier to sell a deal than other markets. And so you can retain the dispo role for yourself, maybe until you really start to scale past 4 deals a month, let's say.
Yeah.
So other than that, I mean, if you do start to scale past that, then now you're talking about either hiring a second acquisitions. In DC, I would say hire second acquisitions. And then the next level past that would be your dispo rep, right? And and overall, like just in general, as you're scaling, like you want to really know your numbers. You want to know your numbers, so that way, like when you see that things aren't producing, things aren't panning out, you have an exact like you have all these metrics to tell you what's wrong, and it's a lot easier to do that than if you don't have the metrics and you don't know what's wrong, right? So if you don't know if it's a conversion issue, you don't know if it's a marketing issue, you don't know if it's a transactional issue, right?
It's kind of going by your feeling.
Right.
Yeah, I always tell people there's like maybe like 4 important metrics you just got to watch every single month. You know, and if you watch those every single month, if it's like too low or too high, there's usually like 2 or 3 things that can cause it, right? Like if my lead to deal conversion rate is too low, I either need better quality leads or I need to train my salespeople better. You know, if I'm not generating enough leads, maybe I don't have the right lists. Or maybe like my targeting, if I'm doing digital, my targeting is off. I'm not hitting the right keywords. Right? So there's usually like 1 or 2 things you can do to tweak these metrics, and just staying on top of them, you know exactly what's causing you not to be profitable.
Exactly. And the more that you do that, it's like a science. And the more that you do that, the more you become a lot more intimate, like you have a lot more intimate knowledge of the business, and it starts to become second nature. And once you reach a certain point, you're really just looking at numbers. And numbers are telling the story. And then you're putting a magnifying glass on specific part of the business and the specific department that needs the help. And once you do that, once you get to that level, it's really just about just being consistent with that, having weekly meetings, and recording everything and implementing what comes out of the meeting, right? So so make sure that you're tracking your numbers. However, this is one big thing that I want to say. If you haven't like hit your cash-based target, right? And so this is, kind of like the 3-step process that we teach our clients. Or
sorry, just to back up. When you say cash-based target, is that a target to cover your overhead? Is that what you're saying? Like I have 100K overhead.
That's to kind of like go to the next stage, right? Okay. Well, now I can go to this next stage of the business. I can start to optimize the operations. I can start to really build this machine. I can take a step back from the business, and then so that I can really start to perform on a higher level. It's like taking 3 steps back to take 10 steps forward.
Gotcha.
Then you take another 3 steps back to take 20 steps forward when you go to step 3, which is building your team. And so, but what I will say is, like, if you have a revenue generating issue, right, then focus on revenue generating activities.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't want to focus too much. I'll say too much on building a tracking machine and like this elaborate system processes. If there's no deal flow,
yeah, so many people screw that one up. That's like, I see that happen so often. That's like the number one mistake. Everyone that gets started in this business, what do? They go and they get a CRM and they get training and they get and then they spend the next 60 days building out their tech, trying to build all their tracking info. I'm like, no, just pick up the phone and freaking talk.
Yeah.
Just close
That's what we teach in that first stage, which is the create cash base. That's what we teach, which is like, all right, we're going to teach you only the minimum that you need to know as far as systems and processes. And then like, boom, like marketing and sales, it's heavy. So like you can figure out what you need to do for marketing and just spend all your time on the freaking phones in this stage. Yeah. And so, that's revenue generating activities, right? So I definitely wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, because a lot of people get that wrong too.
Yeah.
So, and again, the way to kind of what we originally started to talk about, which is the opening and the topic of today's call, is the wholesaling sustainable? Is it profitable? Right. And so, the reality is it can be. It's just like any other business, right? You just have to, you have to scale correctly, right? Don't scale too fast, but also pour into your people, and do all the steps we just mentioned. And again, the more that you can track your data, then you can start to analyze your marketing effectiveness. Okay, so if you're doing those 2 things, you're tracking the effectiveness of your marketing, and you're also keeping your acquisitions team optimized. That's it, right? Yep. And those 2 things, most people only have one or the other, or most people don't even have either one. if you have effective marketing with an optimized acquisitions team, there's nothing else you like. I won't say nothing else, but you covered 80 to 90% of of this business, right? And the dispo side is going to be, obviously a little bit easier. It got a little harder during COVID, but things are starting to pick back up. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say, especially in DC, if you're in a market like DC, which most everybody here is, I think everybody here is listening from DC, right?
We now expand to Florida. We got deal makers.
I saw that.
Deal makers, Tampa deal makers. So
yeah, I saw that. You're in my hood.
Yeah, we got to get you on that group, invite people to that group, because the idea is we want to put out this content every week, and there'll be Dealmaker Nation. That's kind of like the mother group where everyone can post everything. And then if you're in DC, you can join DMV Dealmakers. Florida, you got Orlando Dealmakers, Tampa Dealmakers. So we got to get your help building those up in Florida.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Hey, Joe, real quick, in terms of you mentioned a couple times now, scaling too fast, you're growing too fast. How do you know you're going a little bit too fast? Because I know a lot of people are very hesitant to kind of make these moves in terms of, hiring their first hire or, hiring a second guy. And, we just seem to, oftentimes we have a habit of just kind of not taking enough action. How do you kind of balance that point where, you're going a little bit too fast, you might be tripping over yourself?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because there's definitely the other side of that. I was really more so talking for the people that, that want to hire, that want a big team, right? And they want to hire, 3 people, at once, or anything like an instance like that. So I would say though, like if you have hit your cash base target, like let's say you have 3-5 months of reserves, and you've been in the business for a while. Again, if it aligns with your vision, I'll always say this: if it aligns with your vision, then if you're there and you feel like you're seasoned in it, and you feel like you can you can teach somebody to do it, then that's the decision right there. Like that's the decision matrix. It doesn't align with your vision. Have you done it enough times so you can teach it? And whatever the third thing that was that I just said. What was it? Okay, my mind's blanking right now. But essentially, yeah, guys, like if you've done enough times, if you have the cash, obviously,
right?
And yeah, so I mean, definitely, I was more so talking like after you made your first hire, or after you made, you all of a sudden you want to start building this big team. And so if you haven't made your first hire yet, and you know that you need to, take fucking action. Right? Don't be scared to make that hire. However, also make the right hire, right? Don't hire out of desperation, because that will always lead. Yeah, it will always, almost always end up not.
Never gonna do. Just don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. So hire strategically and with poise, and so definitely make sure to do that.
Joe, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many different opinions on this, and I want to get your take, because you're one of the best in the world probably at scaling wholesale teams. You hire someone, you've done all the testing, they seem like they're going to be great. You got all your high hopes, man, this guy's going to crush it. 2 months go by, they haven't closed a deal. What do? Do you fire them? At what point do you rip the Band-Aid off? How do you make those decisions?
The absolute first thing that I'm going to look at is, did I do my part? Right.
Yeah. And
so obviously well, actually, no, even with us at our scale where we were, we obviously still have shortcomings too. Right. And so sometimes there was just a lack of training. But the biggest thing is all right, you want to coach them. You don't want to order them, right? You want to coach them. So really generate real rock stars and correct any behaviors is like by asking the right questions. So, you can, like, it's so crazy. It's so simple, but so few business owners and like managers, right? Because now you're a manager if you have an employee. So few managers actually do this right. Actually just asking them a question. They say they're doing something wrong, and then they'll just tell them they're doing something wrong. They'll be like, okay, you didn't hit these numbers. Like, what's going on? As opposed to like genuinely asking the question, right? To where they feel it's an open atmosphere. Anybody who has trouble with this, read the book Multipliers. Okay. And essentially, one, I want to make sure that it wasn't nothing that I did, right? No training shortcomings, no cultural mismatches, no unclear explanation, right? Because there might be something in the process that they're not even clear of. There might be something that they've been doing for 2 weeks that is killing every single call that you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
And this might be the case with them. And so, one, you don't want to let it get to 2 months, ideally, right? Like 2 months will be the cutoff.
Yeah,
will be a cutoff. Like if they're not generating any deals in 2 months.
What is the right amount of time to give someone to get their first deal? Let's say you're giving them the right amount of leads. You've done.
I would say like maximum 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like maximum 6 weeks. To get them, familiar with the process, familiar with wholesaling in general, familiar with Podio, familiar with running numbers, familiar with the sales aspect of it. 6 to 8 weeks. But I mean, we have new guys that come in and, they'll close in their first 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Some will even close a contract in their first week. And so, like that's, here's the thing though, like you should, here's what I said, that you shouldn't let it get to 2 months, because you should be monitoring that process closely.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, right. After 3 weeks, you should be like, hey, what's going on? Your metrics aren't there. You're not calling enough people. You're not talk time's too low. And you'll know simply by doing the stuff that most people hate to do, which is like listening to the call recordings and role playing with them. Right. So you'll know, like, once you start to listen to those, like what is actually going on. And and you'll start to see. So, but yeah, 6 weeks. Like if they haven't gotten a deal in like three to 4 weeks, then that's the first time I'm gonna really put an eye on it. I'm gonna say, okay, what's going on here? And then I'm gonna be right next to you when you jump on the phones. I'm gonna coach you through it, right? And then if it continues on, like, they're just going to be monitored very closely. And, on the 4th week, it's still going on, same thing. And then by the 6th week, I'm going to really put the pressure on them. And I'm going to say, all right, listen, look, if we don't get a deal by, the 8th week, then we're going to have to let you go. Yeah. Right? So they know in advance, like the expectations are set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, if you're doing everything right, 2 months max. Really 6 weeks.
Yeah. Great insights there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Go ahead, John.
So I was just going to say, we talked a lot about kind of building up that team, kind of at a phase where you got a few deals coming in. You might be bringing your first acquisitions guy, maybe your second. What about to the people who are still going, or they're still trying to get to that deal to deal point? I know those aren't typically the people you're coaching, Joe. However, I'm sure you've kind of been on that ground floor, just starting a company from nothing to, scale to the company you helped build. what is kind of the best advice you have for the people that are still struggling to get their first couple deals? In terms of, I guess, in terms of what to market to, kind of the guerrilla marketing techniques, and just whatever kind of nuggets you can throw at them.
Sure. Yeah. I would say be as efficient as possible on marketing so that you're mostly spending your time on the phones. Like do what you have to do to like just be an animal on the phones. Like you just got to hit those freaking phones as much as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so like 3 things. Yeah. 1, just be as efficient as possible in your marketing. So, text messaging is great because it's, you can get out a lot. And you have to, it's a lot easier to manage. And so, text messaging works great for that. And then, work on your acquisition skills, as well as like just spend an ungodly amount of time on the phones, right? Yeah. And give yourself breaks and like plan your breaks ahead of time so that you can actually output more. And if you're still struggling to get your first few deals, then that just means that you haven't hit the phones hard enough. So generate those leads as effectively as possible, and then hit the phones. Like just hit the freaking phones. And you like literally just like take like what I say to those people is like the biggest thing that you're missing is you're not taking massive action. Yeah. Like at the beginning, right? It's just like a rocket, shooting out of the atmosphere of Earth. It takes a lot of energy to get it going. And so like, yeah, that is the grit stage. Like you're going to have to take massive action at this stage. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to, start getting those, those deals under your belt and start to close some revenue there. But most people, it's really just a mentality issue, right? Because you have people that did it, right? You have people that did it. Okay. So the biggest difference is really just like, like the grit, right? And so, yeah, again, hone in on your vision, hone in on your purpose, let that drive you, envision yourself already, achieving what you have wanted to achieve, and let those emotions carry you through. Right. And I would, again, the biggest thing to those people is just like what I find is that they just don't take enough action. And so, because I do work with those people too, not me personally, but I have a coach that works with people that are either trying to get their first deal or like they've already closed a few deals, but they haven't get their cash-based target. So, I have a program for them too. Wonderful. So I work with those people. But the biggest thing that I see with those people is they just don't take enough action.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
Guys, if you're just tuning in now, we are live with none other than Joe Dillon, one of the top wholesalers and wholesaler coaches anywhere in the nation. This guy's an absolute animal when it comes to wholesaling. If you're not where you want to be, if you're just joining now, go back an hour and watch this thing from the beginning, because this thing is just packed with absolute gold. Joe, we don't want to keep you too long. We only got a few more minutes here. So if you're watching live and you have a question you want to ask Joe, I mean, this guy charges a lot of money for coaching. Now's your chance to get it free, right? So post a link, post a comment below if you have any questions for Joe. We're going to wrap things up pretty soon. Joe, is there any other thoughts or insights or advice you can share for the group here? We talked about mindset, right? Like getting the mindset, getting the vision, the foundation. Talked about how that's like the beginning, the early stage. We talked about growing the team, how to find people, who to find, KPIs they should be targeting, KPIs they should be hitting, what to do if you're a beginner investor and you're just working on your own, just trying to scrape and get your own deal. Is there anything else you can share with the group tonight?
Let's see. We talked about a lot. I think we covered a good portion of what I wanted to. Yeah, I mean, really more so like, again, just make sure that you're enjoying the journey. That's the biggest thing. That's right. The biggest freaking thing. Like, I can talk for days on mechanics and structure, And I'm actually really good at that part, ironically, but it means nothing if you're not happy. So, just make sure that you're working on you. And yeah, we actually touch on that too for, any of my clients that actually go through my programs. We touch a lot on that too. So, but yeah, just make sure you're enjoying the journey.
Yeah. And have the right vision, right? Like plan that out. It's funny because I remember working one of the first companies I worked with. They're wholesaling, and we scaled them up to $1 million plus of assignment fees per month, and pretty consistently held that for a while. And I left the business, and years later, you hear about them, and they're doing maybe $100,000 a month. I was like, what? Like, what's going on? It turns out, I think what happened is they got to $1 million a month, and they realized that wasn't the kind of lifestyle they wanted to live. They don't want to have to worry about having $200,000 of overhead, to cover every single month. So what they do, they scaled back just to small shop, because that was more in line with the lifestyle that they wanted to have. I see so many people that they're in one camp or the other. They want to stay small and just keep on doing the deals just themselves, just be just themselves, or maybe work with a partner or a couple of guys. Matt Fullerton, the DMV there, he's like that. He doesn't want to get big. I keep on telling him, I'm trying to scale him up. I'm like, Matt, let's get you to $1 million a month. He says, no, I want to stay small.
Absolutely. No, man, you know what? Like, all right, I think, if I were to do this from scratch, right?
Yeah.
I would probably do 1 to 2 acquisitions, right? Obviously get to that point, and have an office manager, which would be a TC / just helping out with maybe some marketing stuff, things like lower level tasks that I didn't want to do, like / executive assistant, and then you can just also hire somebody as a dispo, and you got your shop. I mean, and that's relatively low overhead. Probably, you can probably get away with $35,000 in overhead. 30 to 40 in overhead with that, and including your marketing, including paying yourself, and you can do a lot of damage with that. You can do $100,000 a month with that structure, and then if you think about those numbers, then that's like a 50 to 60% profit business, and that's great. Like that's fantastic.
Really well for $65,000 a month.
I've talked to a lot of high level people, and many people have not passed the $400,000 profit mark, right? Yeah. It seems that most of these businesses, they're even if they're scaling to $1 million, they're still making $200,000 bottom line.
Yeah.
So but you can do that with that structure. You can have a $300,000-$400,000 profit to the bottom line after paying yourself, with a small, very compact but very tightly knit, also with the great culture, a good team like that. And it doesn't have to be a massive company in order for you to do that. In fact, we made our first $1 million with, I think, 4 people.
Wow. Lean.
So it sounds like lean is the way to go.
I love lean, to be honest. But if you are going to scale, one of the biggest things is getting to a place where you have a middle manager, right? So once you have 2 levels of separation, then they can start to go to the manager, right, with the questions. And for example, if you have a sales manager, they can manage the sales for acquisitions, and then potentially also manage the dispositions as well, if you want to scale past 2 million, let's say, and then that can also help you out a ton.
Awesome. This is some great insights. We got a question from the group here. The question is, are RVMs a strategy, and what's the best dialer to use?
Are RVMs a strategy?
Voicemails.
I guess what they're trying to ask is it a good
viable strategy?
Good strategy. Is it viable? Have you used RVMs? Did you get success with them? Which one did you try, if you did?
Yeah, to be honest, okay, so if you're going to do RVMs, just know you got to do a shitload. Okay, you gotta do a lot in
Yeah.
order to actually in order to make it worth your while. And so, I've heard of there are a few there are a few different systems that you can use. We were using Roar at the time. You can use, I think there's like
REI Rail. Justin Winters, the REI Rail.
REI Rail is expensive though.
It's expensive. It is expensive. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of the other RVM companies are right around that same price. At least the real estate investor focused, catered companies like Sean Terry has one as well. I think some other gurus out there, they got their own version, but they're all roughly around that same price, about 4 cents a drop.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are, for example, like Stratix. I think it's like less than a penny. So like the name of the game for RVMs is like volume.
Yeah,
like
tens of thousands.
But we stopped doing it, and a lot of people stopped doing it just because of the risks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's in Florida, right?
It's a PA. Yeah, Florida do not drop RVMs in Florida.
Yeah, Florida's no joke. Yeah. But up there, yeah, it's viable. But like, you might have to send 40,000, to 50,000 a week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've personally dropped 19,000 knock on a deal, and like that's
19? Yeah, 19's not enough. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to drop 40.
No, you got to do like 40,000.
Yeah, a week.
The problem is people don't listen to their voicemails, or their voicemails are full, right?
Motivated sellers always have full voicemails.
Read text, right? Or like if you call someone, even if they don't answer, you see a missed call,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I never listen to my voicemail. I think,
but here's the thing: it could be, again, it's a volume game. So like, look, it could definitely be viable, and it can also be profitable if you're okay with that and you're doing the volume. So like,
they're doing it. There's guys that are making a few $100,000 a month doing it. I don't know how.
Yeah.
They figured it out.
So I'll tell you. Look, it's literally just volume. You do an IVR system for the callback.
Yeah.
Right? And then you just have what you can do, if you even want to get even more efficient, you can have a preliminary person on the front end of that, filtering through those leads, because there's still going to be people that press one that just going to tell you to fuck off.
Yeah.
And then you can finally filter out the good leads and send them to your acquisitions guy.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is key, because the problem is when I had some really not effective salespeople managing this, and they weren't even picking up the callbacks. Like, I could see the callbacks; they were just like not even picking them up. But that's really where the leads, I think, come from on RVMs. And what you said about the IVR, I think that's really key, because you're going to drop these things. A lot of people don't even listen to the voicemail; they just call back, right? So every single contact is an opportunity, right? But then a lot of those people are just calling back, "Hey, I got a missed call from this number." So you want to filter those out. So setting up an IVR where you can press 1 if you're interested in selling your house, press 2 if you want to be removed. Having that sort of system, I think, is probably the smartest way to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and that's
dialer. What do you guys use? What's the best dialer? That was the second part to this question.
Did they mean like cold call dialer? Is that, I'm assuming that's what they mean?
Yeah, like, do you use Mojo, or like and then do you use a separate dialer with your CRM, or are you using?
Yeah, so like, I would recommend either Call Tools or ZenCall.
Okay.
Those are the two best dialers. ZenCall is a little bit more of a little bit more technological, but you can customize it to do some cool things.
Yeah.
Those are the two best dialers.
What about those two that you like better than, say, Mojo?
Okay, so I mean, there's just a lot more functionality and features. Like, I mean, you can get really technical with this stuff. Like, as soon as you go through a list, there are several different options that you can just have it automatically do in ZenCall. And you can mark different weights of lists, different priorities of lists. So where, like, let's say you upload a certain probate list, for example, because you marked it a specific weight, as soon as you upload it, it will have your callers stop calling whatever they're calling and call that list. There's a lot of other benefits as well, but yeah, q-tools and Zen call. q-tools is more of like a plug and play, like you can do it right then and there, and it's a little bit more user friendly, I would say, and it looks nicer. But yeah, I mean, Mojo's still good too. I mean, don't overthink. Don't overthink it, right? It's just, at the end of the day, you're talking to people, right? So,
are there any other tools that you recommend? We talked about Podio. I know a lot of investors use Podio. Talked about a couple dollars. Are there any other tools in your tech stack that maybe people haven't heard of that you can recommend for us?
Yeah, I mean, batch lead stacker for like stacking your lists. We used to use PLM, and then I think batch is just it's nicer. It's a little bit easier to use.
I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard about list stacking. Could you explain that? What list stacking?
Yeah, list stacking is just like, all right, let's say you have a probate list, an absentee list, a vacant list, pre-foreclosure. It can tell you who's on multiple pain points. And so if you have, theoretically, if you have someone that is in pre-foreclosure, and then they're also, let's say, vacant, they're also delinquent, then theoretically, in theory, like they're going to be more motivated than
have you found, like, a lot of people, they say list stacking, it sounds like in theory it sounds like a great idea. Have you found it to actually work, and how do you then take
absolutely
and just hit that sub, like
it absolutely works. Here's the thing though, it works better the more lists that you have, right? So like if you only have 2 lists, it's not going to work that well, right? But like if you have 30, 40 different lists. I actually had clients in DC that they backtracked their data, and like 70% of their deals came from stacked lists.
Yeah.
And so, for sure, I think it works. I think it definitely works.
So let me ask you something. When you think that it works, is it because you think that they notice that these deals come from a stacked list? Because here's the thing, like say they're on multiple lists. You got probate, vacancy, and absentee as well. And say you're marketing to all 3 of these lists anyways. What I'm thinking is you're going to market to all 3 of these people regardless, and they're going to be getting 3 pieces of marketing from you anyways. So say, Miss Jones has 3 pieces of letters from you just because she's on multiple lists that you're marketing to, and she's receiving a total of 10 letters total. So she has a 3 out of 10 chance of picking out your letter regardless. Do you think even if they did not list stack, they would still get those odds just simply because they're marketing to all those lists without knowing it?
Well, here's the thing, like it depends on how you operate. So see, like I'm going to pay a little bit more closer attention to 3s and above, right?
Yeah.
And so if I'm paying more closer attention to them, I might market to them more often than I might market to anybody else. So for that reason, I put a higher focus on them, and that's how you have a niche strategy blended with with kind of a shotgun strategy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
My thought would be, if you're going to do stacking, what you do is you use it to figure out where you're going to spend money on the more expensive channels, like direct mail, for example. Sending a text message costs 2 cents. Sending a postcard costs 30 cents, right? So if I'm trying to figure out where am I going to spend the 30 cents, who am I going to hit, chances are what I would maybe want to do is go stack up all my lists, figure out, take a subset of here's the ones that are on 3 different pain points, and then spend my 30-cent touches on those people instead of arbitrarily spending it elsewhere. Do you think that makes sense?
Absolutely.
Things you guys would do? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Anything else? Any questions, John? I know I think this is a new record for longest.
The longest one.
I mean, this is gold. You can see people are commenting in the comments. This is gold.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it and appreciate it. And I mean, for anybody that's joining now, like definitely go back and watch, because we went through a lot of good stuff here. So
a lot of golden nuggets. Well, I know, with this whole COVID thing, probably not holding in-person seminars or any of that stuff. What do you have upcoming, for the rest of the year in terms of masterminds or online classes?
Yeah. Well, like I said, we actually just got back from. I just got back from a mastermind. That was in person.
Okay. In person.
But, so that's only for people that are doing $500,000 and up, and it's a very, very personal, intimate kind of feel. Shoes off, kind of like, flip flops and shorts kind of deal, right? Like where we're getting real. We're getting fucking real. And so everybody's showing their numbers, everybody's showing their bottom line. Okay. So there's no hiding. And we just get really real and raw. And it's just, oh my God, it's my favorite thing that I've ever done.
Getting naked with the numbers.
Yeah. So if you're not at that level yet, if you are, definitely hit me up if you're looking for something that's intimate, high level, also like super giving. Every single member is a freaking stud, but also super humble. And so, yeah, it's just a great group. It's a great group. Secondly, I'm not really doing seminars anymore, for the foreseeable future, but everything can be done online. And I still have my programs available. My mastery program, if you're doing, a deal 0 to, let's say you're doing a deal every other month, or, even up to 2 deals a month, 3 deals a month, in some cases even more, you just want structure. That's kind of like the step 2 and step 3, which is optimize operations and build your team. That's the mastery program. The first program is kind of like for the people that either they're still working on their first deal, or they've closed a few deals, really more so like people that have closed a few deals, but they either still have no money or they want to know how to close better or close more consistently. That's what that program is for, to kind of get them to that cash base, to where they can then optimize their operations and then start building their team.
We got a question here. What are some links that people can visit to learn more about opportunities of working with you and learning from you? How should people reach out to you?
Yeah, I just had a technological little mishap, so like I'm not sure if they're working right now, but let me just double check.
Sweet.
Check. Okay. Yeah. So here you go. It's 7-figure whole. How do I put that? How do I send this to you guys?
7-figure number.
Oh, right here. There you go.
Can you? Okay. So that's a private chat, but I think John, if you want it to show up on the live stream, I think you got to copy that and paste it onto the live comments. So 7-figure, wholesaling.com/coaching. Guys, check that out.
Right.
If you found the last hour and 45 minutes of pure gold valuable, then definitely check that out. And
7figurewholesaling.com.
No. Okay. 7figurewholesale.com/coaching.
Okay.
Wait, can you see? Do you have the ability to see the private chat, John?
Hold on. Yeah, I got the
private chat.
Yep. Hold on. Let me just copy that in there.
And paste that over to live comments.
There we go.
Can you do that on your end?
Yep.
There we go.
And there we go. Cool. And in the case that the website is not working for whatever reason, how can people reach out to you, Joe?
Yeah. Worst case, just reach out to me on Instagram, Joe Dillon Official. And here, I'll also type that here. And then, or just hit me up. I mean, it's on Facebook, so I'm assuming I'm tagged in this, right? So just message me, just shoot me a direct message. Either way, I really enjoy getting to know the people that are interested in my coaching anyways. And so, I like to just message people. That's pretty much how I've done, I think, almost all of my, have like introduced all my clients, is like we just started with messaging each other on Facebook or Instagram.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Awesome, man. When you plan on coming up to the DMV?
Man, I'm coming up there in the next month.
Gotcha.
Because I'm visiting my family.
Good stuff.
Everybody still lives up there, so I don't know if you guys are having an event or whatever, but yeah, definitely let me know.
Absolutely. Love to get together, and we'll invite Ryan too. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, and by the way, I mean, Joe's coached, quite a few people here in the DMV that are, pretty successful in wholesaling. And I think a lot of these people, they had the idea of scaling a huge team, then they kind of realize they want to keep it nice and lean. Is that accurate, Joe?
Yeah, I would say a good portion of them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and they crush it with their lean businesses. So, Joe, I mean, it's been awesome for the past hour or so. Tons of golden nuggets. And like I said, you definitely go back and watch this replay. Lots of good stuff in the beginning. So,
yeah.
I'm going to watch it twice.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Take notes.
Absolutely.
And if there's anything I could do for any of you guys or for anybody that's listening, just let me know. Reach out to me. I'm here to help you guys. So
awesome.
Great. Thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate it on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Good night, guys.